So My Hero Academia has a lot of interesting characters, right? But not all of them are in the My Hero 1 Justice series. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel, and today we're doing another episode of the How They Can Work series. In this series, we look at characters that are not My Hero 1 Justice 2, and we try to break them down to create movesets for them, so hopefully one day they will become a playable character. So for today's video, we are talking about the character Setsuna Tokage. I think she would be a pretty interesting character. She did get into UA through recommendations. She was the other Class 1B student who got in through recommendations. It was her and Juzo Honanuki, and we already did a video about him if you want to check that out. But yeah, I think she would be pretty interesting. I've seen a lot of people say that she doesn't really have much combat potential because of her quirk, but I think she would work in this game. Like, I think her quirk is, unique enough for her to work in this game. But before we begin, I just wanted to warn you real quick that there will be some spoilers from My Hero Academia Season 5, Episode 9. I just wanted to warn you real quick, just in case you didn't want to be spoiled. I know it's not last week's episode, but it's still a pretty recent episode, so I just wanted to warn you real quick that there will be some spoilers from that. Now, with all that out of the way, let's begin the video. So in the My Hero 1's Justice series, each character usually has a normal attack, a red attack or an unblockable, a yellow attack or an armor attack, and they also have a quirk 1, a side quirk 1, a quirk 2, and a side quirk 2, and they also have a plus ultra level 1, 2, and 3. But in this series, we don't look at the normal attack because it's usually just the same punch or kick, and we don't look at the plus ultra level 3 because it's just 3 plus ultra level 1s combined into one big attack. So we only look at the unique things in this series. So yeah, that's how the series works. So let's just dive into this moveset. So Setsuna's quirk is called Lizard Tail Splitter, and the way it works is she basically kind of splits her body into small pieces. When they're split up, she can pretty much just float around and kind of connect her body back, when she wants to. They have a time limit, I think, and if they get too far away, I also think they stop moving, but she can regenerate them back onto her main body. As of right now, she can split her body up into 50 pieces, which is pretty interesting. She can use her quirk for scouting, distractions, but I also think she has some combat potential as well, which I will get into when we're talking about the moveset, but that's how her quirk works. So let's start off with her quirk 1. So starting off with her quirk 1, I have it labeled Lizard Launch. This is where she separates her hands from her body, and then she would, fire one of her fists forward at the opponent, which would hit the opponent, and then the other fist would uppercut the opponent, which would send the opponent into the air. If she's in the air already when using this quirk, she would do the same thing, except instead of uppercutting the opponent, she would spike them downward, and that would cause a bounce. So it's pretty good for combos, and it's a good way to get the opponent into the air or onto the ground. So it's a really interesting quirk, and it's a cool way to do like a punch ability because, like I said, I think she has some form of combat potential because we've seen her, kind of like detach her hand, so that means she can, have her fist fly all over the place, and she would be able to punch the opponent from different angles. So I think she does have combat potential, so that's why I made this her quirk 1. So for side quirk 1, I have it labeled Divided Counter. So it is a counter, and what would happen is when the opponent hits her, she would split into small pieces and hit the opponent with all the pieces, at once, which would do damage and also daze the opponent. Then she would reform her body, and then she can follow up with a combo afterwards because of that daze. So it's a counter, which means it would do, good damage, and also it dazes the opponent so she can follow up with a combo. So it's a pretty good way to start a combo if an attack is incoming. So if you can read the opponent, it's pretty good. And overall, just a solid attack. It gives her a counter and just lets her do damage while also starting a combo. So that's why I made that her side quirk 1, because I think it would be pretty good for her. So for quirk 2, I have it labeled Separated Strike. This is where she separates her lower part of her body, which splits into small pieces, and while that happens, her top part floats, which you can control and move around with it, and the small pieces would float in place. Then you can fire her small pieces at the opponent when you want to, but after a couple of seconds, she fires them on her own, so you can't just hold it. And once the pieces connect or miss, they will come back to her so she can reform her body, and she would fall back down to the ground. While floating, she can actually move and dash, like I said before, so you can control where she goes, but she is open, so when she does that attack and while she's floating, the opponent can technically punish her during that time. So that's kind of like the balancing factor of it. So you can't just hold it, and while she's floating, you can actually punish her because, you can actually do damage to her, and she can't do anything unless the pieces actually connect or she reforms her body. So this move would be good for, obviously a projectile-based attack, while also maybe, doing guard pressure, using it in combos, a good way to start combos and stuff. So you can use it in different ways. You can also, play mind games with the opponent, like, are you going to fire the projectiles right now, or are you going to dash away and try to, regroup and stuff. So it's a good move to kind of play mind games with the opponent, but also, do guard pressure, use it for combos and damage, while also having a projectile to keep the opponent at bay. So that is a good quirk 2 for her, and it allows her to use her quirk to her maximum, split into pieces, while also, being able to fly and float. So I think that would work for her. So for her side quirk 2, I have it labeled split grab. This is where she would separate her hands from her body, and she would kind of like grab the opponent, and then she would lift them upward and kind of like drop them, which would also cause a bounce. So you can follow up with a combo after it, and if you hold it, it can be a red attack. So, you can start a ground combo if you time the bounce correctly, or you can jump and start an air combo. So it's also a good way to start combos and stuff, obviously because you can make it a red attack as well, but also because, it's a grab, so it will drop the opponent, and you can start a ground combo or an air combo if you decide to jump. And it's also good for just doing damage in combos too, because then you can link it up with your combo and kind of like extend it. So I think this is a good side quirk too for her. Moving on to her red attack, I have it where she kind of just punches the opponent forward, but it's kind of like a separator punch, so she would like, separate her hand and kind of like shoot her fist forward, and it would hit the opponent, and then you can follow up afterwards with a combo. And with her yellow attack, it's basically the same thing, except, she doesn't launch the opponent, forward a bit. She kind of just like, kicks the opponent, but separates her foot, and she kind of kicks them, but she doesn't launch them as far as the red attack, But both of them you can pretty much just follow up with a combo, so it doesn't really matter how far, they technically launch. Just picture the red attack kind of like launching a little further than the yellow attack, but you can still follow up with a combo with both of them. So, I don't really know why I'm mentioning the distance. That's kind of useless, because you can follow up with combos after both of them. So, yeah, basically, her red attack and her yellow attack, it's pretty much just separated strikes, except one of them is with her fist, while the other one is with a kick. So that's her red and yellow attack. And for her level 1, I have it where she kind of like separates her hands and has one of them fly behind the opponent, while the other one punches the opponent into the other fist. Then she would punch the opponent, back and forth between the two fists. And that would happen a couple times before she knocks the opponent away and recalls her hands. So I think this would be a really cool level 1, because she's kind of just playing ping pong with herself. She's kind of punching the opponent back and forth, between her two fists. And I think that would be pretty cool to see. And it would be a pretty interesting and unique level 1 for Setsuna. And moving on to her level 2 animation, I have it where the animation would start with her separating the lower part of her body and then firing her pieces at the opponent in a straight line. Once all the pieces hit the opponent, they would circle back around and begin to hit the opponent from all different angles. Then, once all the pieces hit a second time, the camera would cut back to her while she's floating, and she would launch her fist at the opponent, which punches the opponent into the ground and would cause a debris explosion. The animation would end with her pieces reconnecting to her, and she would reform back to her, normal body, and she would strike the pose you would see in the anime. I think this level 2 would be pretty cool to see, because she's basically utilizing everything she has. She kind of hits the opponent with her pieces a couple of times, like they hit once and then they circle back around and hit the opponent again. And then, because she's floating and watching all of this happen, because, she can float while also controlling her pieces while she's, flying basically, she kind of hits the opponent into the ground with her fist, and it causes like a debris explosion. I think that would be a really cool level 2 to see. And she strikes her classic pose from the anime and stuff, and I think it would be a pretty cool just animation overall. Like maybe she could have like that green background like Sue has. It would be a pretty cool level 2 animation. I think it would be a really cool one. But that is my moveset for Setsuna. I think she's a very interesting character. I know a lot of people think, her quirk isn't very good for combat, but I actually think it can work, because, we've seen her separate, parts of her body, in like a whole kind of fashion. It's not like a piece, it's actually like her hand, because she went to try to grab Bakugo, so she kind of like flung her hands at him, and it's not like they were in pieces, they were actually her hands. She kind of just separated them from her body. So I think she does have some kind of combat potential, and she also has like, a lot of other uses with her quirk, like scouting, being able to fly. So she is a really cool character overall. I think she's a pretty awesome character, and I would love to see her come to this game. I think she would be pretty interesting. But if you guys would like to see a specific character in this series, let me know down in the comments below. I'd be happy to try to create a moveset for that character. And if you guys did enjoy, please like and subscribe. That would be amazing. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys next time. Later.